Hello and welcome to the second video in our Delphi Through the Years series. I'm Grey Matters Embarcadero licensing expert Robin Ashby. In the first video we were introduced to how Delphi started, how it's used in the world and its key features. I'm once again joined by Embarcadero Pre-Sales Director Stephen Ball to discuss complementary technologies and what the future holds for Delphi. Hello Stephen.
Hi, Robin.
Obviously, nowadays with the cloud, a lot of people are moving their applications. Can you give me a brief description about how Delphi is coping with this?
Yeah, so I think the cloud's a very important part of any modern architecture. There's reasons to have stuff in the cloud. There's reasons to have stuff locally on networks. It's about finding the right mix. But the great thing is that the choice is there for you as a RAD Studio and a Delphi developer. One of the great things around RAD Studio is it provides you fully compiled native code, which is great in terms of speed and performance. It's also kind of very flexible and provides some very fast deployment options. With things like RAD Server now, we've got full stateless architectures that you can deploy and have load balanced, with the right configurations and setups, and take advantage of some of the great, services and capabilities of things like the Azure and the cloud. The other kind of things within RAD Studio, obviously, wherever your application is being based, you're often wanting to connect to data, and you can do that rapidly with FireDAC, and there's lots of different cloud solutions, and also wider enterprise solutions. Because I think when we talk about the cloud, it's also important to look at the other systems and architectures that are out there today, where we're using platform as a service and software as a service, and you want to integrate and bring those different parts together. And there's a huge sway of connectors from third-party companies like CData, who integrate seamlessly into FireDAC to connect to over 200 different enterprise solutions and so on, which you can all bring back through your Delphi code. But I think the other parts of the cloud, I've mentioned kind of platform as a service, and providing developers capabilities like the Azure Cognitive Services, where you can call endpoints to kind of translate text to speech and text to voice, and from one language to another, and so on. Calling all these AI capabilities or whatever are done through predominantly through REST calls and standard interfaces, and RAD Studio's got a full set of components in there to enable you to connect to pretty much any service out there. So wherever you need to connect to your data and bring things together, you can do that quite easily with RAD Studio.
Thanks, Stephen. There's been a lot of talk around Delphi and Python. Can you expand a bit on this for us?
Yeah, so obviously Python is a general purpose programming language that is really popular with data scientists and developers. It's used a lot for working with big data, cloud computing, artificial intelligence especially, and one of the most popular IDEs for Python developers is called PyScripter, and that's actually written using Delphi. But as part of that, there was a set of components, Python for Delphi components, that have been open sourced, and they allow Delphi developers to be able to call Python code directly from their Delphi applications, and to get events and methods of kind of pulling back in, which is really quite unique. It brings the ability to have the full property method event type of interface that we have into kind of the Python world as well, by using a bit of Delphi. So to help us to kind of support this, we've also recently launched Delphi for Python, which is two sets of libraries, one Delphi VCL for Python, and the other one's the Delphi FMX, the FireMonkey framework for Python, which allows cross-platform UIs to be developed directly from Python script. So even if you're just a pure Python developer, you can use a cross-platform or a native UI directly from your Python code. Now, the great thing with RAD Studio is we've got the ability to design those UIs rapidly in terms of how they're going to look and be set together. And then with a single click of a button, you can extract that out and dump that into a Python script if you want to use it purely outside. But what we're seeing is a lot of Python developers bringing their code in and finding the benefits of the cross-platform parallel programming libraries and getting that speed and performance of native that you don't get from the runtime scripts, and where they need to expand their Python to have the speed and performance ready for deployment, that Delphi is a really natural fit there to make that happen.
What would you say the future holds for Delphi?
I think it's really bright. We're seeing so much coming around from different communities, bringing back to Delphi at the moment, and the ability to compile out natively across all these different targets for Windows, Mac, iOS, Android, Linux, and obviously recently Apple have moved across to ARM-based with their Apple Silicon themselves, and having native compilers directly in for there. It's a great time to be a Delphi developer, because the breadth and depth of what you can achieve with a single code base that you write once, you maintain once, that you support in one way, that as you find issues, you can then have them solved, and as you add features, it goes across all those platforms instantly. It's a very powerful toolbox to have as part of what you're delivering. So I think the future for Delphi is really bright.
Oh, thanks, Stephen. That's a really good insight into the product. This concludes the second part of our Delphi video series about complementary technologies and the future of Delphi. Please make sure to watch our third and final video on how you can get started with the product. The Grey Matter contact details are on the screen, so if you do have any questions, please let us know. Thank you for watching.